想成为海的托尼亚。我不想，我不想，我不想啊！我本是遥远星空一颗很。
We have to go back to the very beginning. The Bible opens in the book of Genesis, which simply means beginning. Before there were cities or nations or even people, there was God. And God created the world step by step. He spoke light into the darkness. He separated the sky from the waters. He gathered the seas so dry land could appear. He covered the land with plants and trees. He placed the sun in the sky to rule the day and the moon and stars to rule the night. He filled the waters with fish, the skies with birds, and the land with animals of every kind. And after each part of creation, God saw that it was good. Then came something different. God said,
"Let us make man in our image."
From the dust of the ground he formed a man. Then he breathed into him, and the man became alive. His name was Adam. God placed Adam in a beautiful place called the Garden of Eden. It was more than just a garden. It was a place of peace and abundance. Trees were full of fruit. Rivers flowed gently through the land. There was no sickness, no violence, no fear. Adam had meaningful work. He cared for the garden and named the animals. Life had purpose, but even in that perfect world, something was missing. Adam was alone. God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone." So he caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. From one of Adam's ribs, God created a woman. When Adam saw her, he was filled.
At last, this one is bone from my bone and flesh from my flesh. She will be called woman, because she was taken from man.
Adam and Eve lived in complete innocence. The Bible says they were naked and felt no shame. That simply means they had nothing to hide. There was no insecurity, no guilt, no fear. They trusted each other fully, and they trusted God completely. In the center of the garden stood two special trees. One was the tree of life. The other was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God gave them freedom to eat from any tree in the garden except one. He warned them, "If you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will die." Only one boundary in a world full of freedom. For a time, life was perfect. But then came a voice. One day, a serpent approached Eve. The serpent was clever and subtle. It didn't begin with a command, it began with a question. Did God really say you can't eat from any tree in the garden? Eve answered,
"We can eat from the trees. We just must not eat from the one in the middle of the garden. If we do, we will die."
The serpent replied, "You will not surely die. God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened. You will be like God, knowing good and evil." In that moment, doubt entered her mind. The fruit looked beautiful. It looked good to eat.
And it promised wisdom. It promised independence. It promised the power to decide right and wrong for herself. Eve faced a choice. Trust what God had said, or trust her own judgment. She reached out. She took the fruit. She ate it. Then she gave some to Adam, who was with her, and he ate it too. And instantly something changed. Not the sky, not the trees, them. Their eyes were opened, but instead of feeling powerful, they felt exposed. For the first time, they realized they were naked. They felt shame. They felt vulnerable. They quickly sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. Later, when they heard God walking in the garden, they did something they had never done before. They hid. God called out, "Where are you?" Adam answered, "I heard you, and I was afraid because I was naked. So I hid." Afraid. That word had never been part of their world before. God asked, "Have you eaten from the tree I told you not to eat from?" Instead of taking responsibility, Adam blamed Eve. Eve blamed the serpent. In just a few moments, trust had been replaced with blame. Innocence had been replaced with guilt. This moment is often called the fall. Humanity fell from a state of harmony into a state of brokenness. By choosing their own way over God's way, sin entered the world. Sin is simply choosing independence from God, deciding for ourselves what is right and wrong. And that choice came with consequences. God spoke to the serpent first, declaring that there would be ongoing conflict between it and humanity. He spoke to Eve, telling her that bringing children into the world would now involve pain, and that relationships would become more complicated. He spoke to Adam, explaining that the ground itself would resist him. Work would become hard. Food would come through sweat and struggle. And then came the hardest consequence of all. From dust you came, and to dust you will return. Death had entered human existence. But even in this moment of judgment, something remarkable happened. God made garments from animal skins and clothed Adam and Eve. Instead of leaving them in their shame, he covered them. It was the first sacrifice described in the Bible. Something innocent gave its life so they could be covered. Then Adam and Eve were sent out of the Garden of Eden. The entrance was guarded so they could not return and eat from the tree of life. Paradise was closed, and humanity began life in a world that was both beautiful and broken. Outside the garden, Adam and Eve built a family. They had children. They worked the land. Life continued, but it was no longer easy. The harmony they once knew had been replaced by struggle. And that is the world we recognize today. A world filled with beauty and love, yet also filled with pain and loss. We long for peace, yet we experience conflict. We desire good, yet we are drawn towards selfish choices. In many ways, we still stand in that garden, facing decisions about who we will trust. The story of Adam and Eve is not just about two people long ago. It is about the human condition. It explains why life feels both wonderful and difficult at the same time. It reminds us that freedom is powerful, but it carries responsibility. Yet, the story does not end in hopelessness. Even after their failure, God did not abandon them. He spoke to them. He cared for them. He allowed them.
The rest of the Bible unfolds from this moment, telling the story of restoration and hope. So when we reflect on Adam and Eve, we see more than a story about a forbidden fruit. We see a story about choice, trust, consequences, and mercy. It invites us to consider our own decision. The moments when we choose fear over trust, pride over obedience, or blame over responsibility. And it leaves us with a simple but powerful question. When faced with our own choices, will we trust or will we reach for the fruit? Because in many ways, the story of Adam and Eve is still being written in us. Like and subscribe for more Bible stories. See you on the next.